I think when I think about what how COVID affected our teams, I think about my team in general. My teams in general that I'm responsible for are um, many of the areas not clinical at all. So when we look at, say, the purchasing area, we had a number of people there who were continually wrapped up in trying to find as much personal protective equipment as possible in a world where it wasn't available. I mean, it just wasn't. So so then the question was, now what are we going to do? So it was kind of exciting, kind of interesting to find solutions to the problem, like no face masks. What do we do? We found numbers of people that could make face masks and make them so that they were comfortable and so that they could fit on people. And then, how do you get them up front where people need them? Or how do you get them to the other door where people need them? I mean, it was just kind of I don't know if they would look back on it and say that it was fun, but, but I know that we learned a lot. We learned a lot about which areas needed which personal protective equipment, and what it was going to take to keep that all together, and to make sure that everybody was still safe. So that was kind of an interesting piece, I guess, for the materials department. It was a little bit challenging for them because they're just not that clinical person. They're not clinically trained. So it really was there was a little bit of anxiety there when they knew that they were going to be going out amongst some of the staff, some of the patients, and no one knew what they didn't know yet about COVID and about how quickly they could get it and how quickly they could take it home. So there was a little anxiety there as well. I didn't hear so much about anxiety in the admissions department, but boy, those folks really stepped up. They were turned into people who had to be kind of clinical and non-clinical at the same time. Brought with them a level of professionalism, I think, that they now have stepped up more even and understood that it's not just about checking someone in and getting their insurance information from them, say, but also about caring about that patient, caring about how that patient feels, asking them, where have you been? How do you feel? Do you have any symptoms today? And literally caring for and caring about the patients as they come in the door. Now, I think that they're still making sure that a patient has a mask and providing that for them. I know that they were taking temperatures at admissions, which is something they weren't trained to do before. So that's something I think that we can bring forward, and just knowing that that we care for people, whether we're clinical or non-clinical. So when I think about some of the other areas that were, and still are obviously non-clinical, I think about the business office, and I think about the medical records departments, where all of the staff who worked in those areas had the opportunity to work at home. Now, a lot of people didn't have, we can't send nurses home to work, right? And doctors don't stay home to work. And so having people go home and work from home, that was kind of a huge deal, where we all learned to deal with what had to be done in order to make it possible for folks to work at home, and then how we put all those processes back together. The other piece that I was thinking a lot about was switching software at the same time that the world was challenging us with COVID. That was two major challenging things that each of them alone in 2 different years would have been enough, right? But to do that all in 1 year was really, really, really challenging, like very challenging, to make sure that everything was set up the way that it needed to be set up so that when the software was implemented, that all of the patients could see this huge difference in a positive way, that they could be served by Sydney Regional Medical Center. At the same time, dealing with the COVID issues and with all of the different things that came with that from a financial aspect, from making sure that we could continue to keep the doors open so that we could serve the people that needed to be served, while at the same time making sure that some of the things that the government asked us not to do, or CMS, if you will, asked us not to do, for instance, elective surgeries. We did not do elective surgeries during the periods of time that they asked us not to do because, quite frankly, there was not enough personal protective equipment to go around. So putting that all together at the same time was a pretty big challenge, but I think we're all a lot stronger for it, and hope that as our patients come in the door, they can absolutely see that commitment from the folks who are still here.